So here at McKeown Auto Services, as part of our oil change, stage 1 is using DPO product. Stage 2 on petrol engines is MOA, or on diesel engines, DOC.
Yeah.
We find they help prevent a lot of problems. With modern engines, first we had a problem with diesels with DPFs. Now, all of a sudden, we've got GPFs, gasoline particulate filters. And we're finding without the correct maintenance, they're getting blocked. So how are your products helping this?
Okay, well, you know, like you said, we have MOA, which is petrol, DOC, which is for diesel cars. They work very much the same way, but with newer technology, with smaller engines, with turbo systems, there's a lot more heat generated in the engine, and it puts an awful lot more stress on the oil. So one of the things that I would say about the products are, it's like a protective blanket over the quality oil that you're already using. MOA and DOC neutralize acids, which happen in the system very quickly from fuel dilution. The negative effects of acid is that it will oxidize and burn the fuel, the oil much quicker, and that's where that sludge and the dirty oil filters come. But mainly it will elongate the service on the oil and maintain the oil so that it can do its job in a better way around the engine.
Okay, so what have you here?
Well, this is a Timken load pressure test. And, you know, what it does is it checks the pounds per pressure. When we put pressure on it, we've got 2 bearings and it'll pretty much knock itself out. So your ears might get a little bit. So there we go, where it's locked out at 25 pounds of pressure. Okay, so I'll just show you here, Sean.
So what you're showing, so this is doing is, as you're pulling down, this is showing us here how, at what point
it locks out.
This is measuring foot-pounds. So it's in 25 foot-pounds of pressure.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, so 2 metal surfaces, and we have no oil. That's a dry system, so there's no oil in that system, and you can see the heavy score on the bearing at 25 pounds of pressure. So we can see the heavy score on the bearing with no oil in the system. So oil's function, and the oil that you have there, whether it's a 5W30 or a 10W40 or a 0W20, it's to put a layer in between the moving parts. And that's what we're going to do now quickly. So this is a little oil bath here. So we'll turn it on. So there it is going around the bearing. I'm going to move the bearing around so that we can see a new side to it. Okay. Like all oils and fluids, we want to create a small bit of heat in the system first, because that's when the products show their best. So we slowly apply pressure. We can hear it grinding. So you can see we're at 35 pounds of pressure, Sean, and you can see the score. It's a little smoother, but it's still quite a deep score.
And that's a conventional motor oil?
Yeah, I think that's a 530. I would classify a 530 as one of the strongest synthetic oils out there. Now we've got a separate system, so I'm going to open this and we'll move it again. So
what you're just doing, you're just twisting the bearing around a wee bit for a fresh
set. Yeah, so we'll show all the 3 different areas at the end. So we're going to put in some MOA into the system. Okay, so that's the MOA, and we'll top it off with the oil that we had previously. Okay, so got oil and MOA mixed there in the system. Now, we can use DOC or MOA, it'll have the same results, but what we'll do is we'll use the DOC for the acid test after. Is that okay? Yeah. So we've done without oil, we've done with oil, and now we're doing it with the MOA. So like the last one, we want to build up the heat in the system. We're now at 25 pounds of pressure. We're at 35 pounds of pressure. So
you're off scale.
It's
pretty much.
So we're pretty much off the scale. Now, can you see the score?
It's phenomenal, the difference in that small score versus the larger one. And even though there was over twice the pressure applied.
It was off the scale, so we're at over 100 pounds of pressure, pretty much where I would have it at. But this is kind of cool, and I'll show you all the scores when we're finished. One of the biggest things and problems that we would see, and it's why we have different viscosities on oil, your 530, your 030s. Yeah. That all represents your cold start or your hot start. So when the engine has been sitting at nighttime and you have your cold start, that's where the most amount of wear and tear happens on a car, or stop-start journeying or anything like that. And you've probably heard before of the Castrol ad, Castrol Magnatec. It sticks to your engine. Yeah. You know, they're tacky additives in the oil. So in an oil, you will have 80% your base oil and then your 20% additive package. Now, there's nothing in this that's not already in the oil, just an awful lot more of the good stuff.
So it's fair to say, Ciaran, that you speak there of 80% or 100% of your oil is made up of 80% of oil and 20% of additives. But in reality, those 20% of additives make up 80% of the price of the oil. So there only is so much additives you can put into oil before it becomes too expensive.
One of the things that they would always say, oil is built to a specification. And by using BG, you go well above and beyond the specification of protection for your car. And there's two different driving styles that manufacturers in the guideline books, when they have it, they will have normal driving and they will have severe driving. And what a lot of people don't really get is what is normal driving? What is severe driving? And in Ireland, stop-start driving, excessive use of the brakes, driving in a dusty environment, driving in a city, that is extreme severe driving. And that means you must have your service interval. Yet people are not being told this. They think that that's the best type of driving because the car is driving slow. It's the worst and it's the harshest because the piston is going up and down slowly. It's dragging more oil up the cylinder walls. If your rings are not clean, it's going to have more blow-by. Yeah. And I guess that's where good quality oil and changing your oil more often. But unfortunately, people are still driving and servicing their cars at long drain intervals when they should be at severe driving intervals, which is half of what they were told by the OEM manufacturers. So the next quick demo, I've moved the bearing on one last time. We talked about Castrol Magnatec. It sticks to your engine. Well, there's nothing massively special about it. It's good marketing, but it's a tacky additive. And when I talk about stop-start driving, this is where the oil, you want it to stay where it's supposed to stay. So here we are with no oil on the bearing. We were at 25 pounds of pressure previously.
So there's still a bit of residue from the MOA
35 pounds of pressure. We are now pretty much trying to stop it. And there's the score on the bearing with no oil.
Yeah, so even though you've removed the oil source,
yes,
the residue of the oil
has coated the system. So when we speak about timing chains and stretch timing chains, which a lot of the stretching and the wear will happen on cold start, yes, it's coating the system, it's coating the chain. But on wet belts, it's coating the wet belt. It's protecting the oil from the acidity that's building up with fuel dilution. And we'll go into that now on the next demonstration.
When we fit timing chains here, one of the things that's highly recommended, and we insist that all our mechanics do it, is that before you fit the chain, you must leave the chain submerged in oil for at least an hour, preferably from the night before, to try and keep that oil on the chain. So when it gets its first start, before it gets coated in oil in the engine, damage can happen at that point. So what you're showing here is that with the right oil and the right additive in it,
yes,
you're eliminating that.
Yes.
The reason we have to coat the chain initially is because the oil doesn't stick to the chain always.
Yeah.
But now you're showing it can do.
Yeah, it's down to the additive technology that's in the car, in the oils. Like I said, there's nothing in these products that, you know, are not already in the oil. Like when you look at the new grading system on the oils from the API, this is for low speed pre-ignition. This is graded for all the newest spec oils that you have in the marketplace when it comes to petrol. And low speed pre-ignition is the next problem that we're going to be looking at. Because of the newer type oils, your 020s and your 520 oils. What's happening is the oil that's going on the blow-by is actually self-igniting in the system before it should. And it's called low-speed pre-ignition, and it can be detrimental to an engine. We'll move on to the next demonstration. Rather than going through that demonstration again, we're going to stick on the oil side of things. And why we have two different oil treatments is because we have different systems. DOC is primarily for your diesel system. One of the real negative effects of a diesel oil is soot, and having soot control, and also on the emission system is protecting the DPF. And it's why there's a DPF emblem on the product as well, because when you have fuel dilution on regeneration, it mixes with the oil and it creates the acid. And that acid is expanding in the crankcase, and it has to breathe more. And through the positive crankcase ventilation system, the oil is coming around, and people wonder, well, how is my DPF blocking? Because it has to breathe more, because it's expanding, because of the vapors. The vapors are going around and they're carrying the oil, and it's blocking a DPF much quicker. So with these products, you can neutralize the acids. You protect the chain, you protect the oil system, but you also protect the after treatment system. And it's through regular use of these products that you see the benefit. So I'm going to need a little bit of help from you, Sean. So this is a cotton cloth. If you want to hold that cotton cloth with a little bit of tension for me, don't do this, and try this at home, folks. So I have this just to protect your floor. So this is sulfuric acid, and what this is going to do, you have it in a, so there you go there. It's pretty much eaten through the rag. And now just be careful of your hands there, Sean. We'll put this here for the moment. The acid is what happens when fuel and oil meet. So I'm going to put a little bit of DOC on my hand and make sure it's well coated. So this is the acid. That's the acid sitting on my hand. So what it's actually doing is it's put a layer in between the oil and the acid, and it's protecting the system. And as long as the DOC is on my hand and in the engine, it's going to prevent against acid buildup. So if there has less negative effects of the acid, it has less to breathe and go around the system and coat the system. So what we're going to do is quickly wipe this off, and you will see that it's going to eat through the rag again with ease. So that's what was sitting on my hand, but yet I didn't feel anything because it's protected my hand the same way as it protects the oil system.
Generally, oil tends to turn acidic.
Yes.
After 9,000 kilometers.
And especially with fuel dilution.
As well as that part of the crankcase ventilation system is designed that as the cars are driving around, that they're designed on long drives that the fuel that goes into the oil will evaporate. But the problem is that's not happening.
Yes.
It's not getting hot enough. Mm-hmm. So that fuel is staying in the oil. It's not getting out of it.
Yes.
It's turning into acid. It's attacking the engine from the inside out.
Yes. Yes.
So you're preventing that problem.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the washing down of the fuel happens as well, where it thins out the additive pack. And oil will have, I guess, it has to resist some amount of it, but with the amount of fuel dilution from, I guess, people that have been sold diesel cars that shouldn't have been sold diesel cars. People that are living in the city environments where the car never reaches the proper temperature. And like you say, with regards the evaporation on the system, they never get that long run where they can evaporate the fuel that's gone in. So while they've gone in to do the shopping or gone to get the kids and turn the car off, that fuel is sitting in that system and it's eating away at the additive pack in the oil, and it's causing all of these negative effects. And people wonder why in a city their DPF blocks more often. It's because it never gets a chance to regenerate. They start the car in the morning, they drive the kids to school, and maybe they go on to work themselves. By the time they get to work, it's 15 kilometers. Now, I know it takes 15 kilometers to warm up the car. When the car reaches its temperature, it triggers a regeneration, a passive regeneration. That could take another 30 or 40 kilometers to run through that process. These people never get that.
The first thing to do as soon as they hit operating temperature is
turn the car off.
Turn it off.
Yes, and it's a knock-on effect. And what happens is that build-up keeps on blocking and blocking and blocking until they get frustrated, and it ends up in a garage and it's an expensive repair.
One of the things our social media channel has really brought us, it's brought us so much closer to mechanics all around the country. And even when we attended the demonstration you had down in JP Darcy's in Cork, I spoke to the lads in Cork, which is far into the country, has the same problems. It's people coming in, they're not using their cars in the way they're designed to be used. And when you tell them the price to repair, they're looking at you, you know, and there's a lot of mechanics in the genuine good men that want to do the job right, and it's not cheap to do a job right, and people they feel they've been robbed. But realistically, the time they were robbed is when they bought the wrong car.
Also, we got to look at technology, and without getting too much into it, we're building engines now which are smaller engines than before. But we want to put out as much power in the engine that we had before in a smaller engine. So we're putting turbochargers onto the engines. We want to clean the environment. So we're putting after treatment devices on the cars. And we're lowering the amount of oil that goes into the system on a continual basis. And also the viscosity of the oil has been lowered and made much thinner for less resistance and for fuel economy. So fuel economy, we're using much more different components than we used before, and we're looking for the same performance rates. And the problem that we're having is something has to give. If you regularly maintain your system and keep it clean and treat the oil, you will have a system like your customers Viatel that lasts much longer with much less downtime and happy customers at the end of the day. And that's what we're looking for.
That's lovely, Ciaran. Show me your hand. Fantastic to see it's still there and in one piece. So it's clear to see that anyone that wants to get any sort of longevity out of their cars, people are holding on to the cars for so much longer now, and they really, really need products like this. So anyone that's watching that would like to see this demonstration live, where can they see it?
Well, they can visit us at www.bgireland.ie. Our telephone numbers are there. They can email us. Our email address is there. And we can organise that a member of our team can visit the garage on site, go through the demonstrations and the information on each product.